everyone. I'm Heather Rutledge. I'm Executive Director at ArtReach St. Croix. Welcome to tonight's event. I've been really excited to be thinking about the fact that this is a world premiere. So excited to share new work with you as part of the Big Read in the St. Croix Valley. So I was reflecting last night as I drove home from the Arrow Broken Poetry Collective event in Marine, and I saw that big old moon. But tonight is actually the full moon, and the calendar is now changed to May, which I think probably caught everybody off guard. It also is the beginning of American Indian Month and the close of National Poetry Month. So I thought that was another interesting time to note. April showers bring May flowers. We have huge bluebells blooming at ArtReach. And I learned when I was doing my little deep dive on what does May 1st mean, it's actually halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. That is what May 1st marks. Of course, I have to acknowledge the people that make this possible and the foundations and the grants that make a whole month of activities around a common book possible. This is a program of the National Endowment for the Arts in partnership with Arts Midwest. This is the 11th Big Read grant that ArtReach has secured. And I have to say, my favorite. I think what makes it my favorite is that this Big Read author is from the St. Croix Valley. And so Diane Wilson was part of the planning committee for this year's Big Read, as she has been in previous years. I also need to recognize an enormous supporter of this year's Big Read. It was the first time that we received critical funding, matching funding to the federal dollars from the Human Family Unity Foundation. And the reason that this is so important is that there's some things that the federal dollars can't support, or that we already have committed to making so many other things happen. And it's with support from the Human Family Unity Foundation that we were able to bring in the visiting authors from the Dakotas and other parts of Minnesota, who you will meet tonight. So I'm really, really proud of that. And just in general, the Big Read is a month of activities around a common book, done in partnership with the local independently owned bookstores, the 15 but 10 very active branch libraries around the St. Croix Valley, and a bunch of important Literary Arts Committee volunteers. And I also just want to recognize the ArtReach staff, Amy and Anna, and the other Visual Arts Committee members and board members that make ArtReach a machine for good. This weekend is also supported with important support from the acreage at Osceola, and of course, this beautiful venue, the Phipps Center for the Arts. ArtReach really provides the space and the logistics, but what we gather is the talented artists, the poets, and they are really the ones that deserve accolades. They bring the love. So right now, I would like to welcome Jean Nahamani Mahani, who will be doing a prayer before we get started.
Greetings, everyone. Mitako Yepi, Ga Oma Wasan. Hello, relatives in all nations. As Dakota, when we offer prayer, it's to start in a good place so that we all can, and I recognize all nations and all walks of life and all creed. So, and I do this on our behalf so that we can have a goodness and a spirit that is embracing and that just welcomes everyone to this event. Wanawocheka, stay seated, please. Wakantaka Takashina, Heavenly Father, God, Creator, Great Spirit, Chante Mawashte, Chante Yawashte, I come before you with a good heart. We all come before you with a good heart. We appreciate all that we have, the blessings. We are grateful for our families. We are grateful for the opportunity to share stories and grateful for the arts and for the support of the communities and for those who helped organize this event so that we might be able to encourage others to feel the positivity of what we have written and what we share tonight. And watch over us, watch over all of the speakers, watch over that we know their hearts are in a good place, and watch over those who need help, and for all those who are struggling, that they learn to turn in their way to offer wochekia for prayer, to cry unto the Great Spirit, and to ask for help, but also be grateful for all that we have around us, including the land and the water and the sky and the four-legged and the things that fly and the things that crawl. For we know that this is the makoche, this earth we are to take care of. And if those who need a special inspiration tonight, that we might find the words and their hearts and spirits might be lifted and open. And we stand before you with arms wide open to embrace all nations. Mitaku Owasen. Amen. Hanana. That's all.
Thanks, Jean. So I'm going to introduce Diane Wilson tonight, and then each speaker will be introducing the next speaker. We have limited edition numbered copies of Diane's essay that she'll be sharing tonight that you'll be able to have on your way out. So don't forget to get your copy of Diane's new essay, A Love Letter to Itzu Wakpa, the St. Croix River. Diane is a writer, educator, and bog steward who has published 6 award-winning books as well as essays in numerous publications. Wilson is the former executive director for Dreams of Wild Health, an indigenous nonprofit farm, and the Native American Food Sovereignty Alliance, a national coalition of tribes and organizations working to create sovereign food systems for Native peoples. Wilson is enrolled in the Sikanu Owate Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota and is a Metawakan descendant. She lives near the St. Croix River in Minnesota, where she cares for an indigenous seed garden, native perennials for pollinators, and a tamarack bog. Welcome, Diane Wilson.
Amatakiapi, Diane Wilson Namati Yapia, Ude Wakantuano Yate Hamata Haya, Sichangu Oyate Ed Omawapia. So hello, my relatives. Really wonderful to see all these familiar faces in the audience. My name is Diane Wilson. I am enrolled on the Rosebud Reservation, and I am a descendant of the Videwakantuano Yate here in Minnesota. And what a wonderful night to share with all of you. When Heather and I first started talking about the NEA grant, what we would do, what we visioned was a month of events that would really celebrate the St. Croix River Valley. What an incredible community of people and more than human relatives who are all part of making this such a wonderful area to live in. And so the fact that we actually got to have this celebration with all the libraries, the art shows, the movie about the rights of nature, an evening about the history of this area with the copper tool making, and also the mussels. I really wish I had, could have been in town for the mussels, but next time. So I just wanted to start by thanking everyone who's been part of this, and first and foremost the libraries and all the librarians who hosted the book clubs and the book talks. I do want to say that librarians are some of my heroes because of the work that you do. Yes, let's give librarians a round. Especially these days when we're facing so many challenges with banned books and it's the librarians who are holding the line for us. So I also wanted to thank all the artists and the writers and the people who did the presentations, and you potters, you know who you are. It was a tremendous community effort to put this together, and I felt so honored and proud to be part of this community. And so we also wanted to thank Jody and Greg Gentle, but I don't know if they could be here tonight. Is Jody in the house? We'll catch them later. They are actually hosting our group at the acreage. And for those of you who've been there, it is just one of the most beautiful places ever. So I wanted to thank them and acknowledge their hospitality. I also wanted to thank Alex from Franconia Sculpture Park. I also don't know if he is in the house, but just so you all know, he was an important part. He hosted the launch event. And then of course, more than anyone, we have to thank Heather. Because Heather is the one that held the vision, wrote the grant, did the extra legwork to get the extra grant so that we could actually bring our group in. And Heather is just an amazing human being to work with. Her generosity of heart, her willingness to go along with the crazy ideas we'd have, like, hey, let's bring in 10 people from South Dakota. It'll be fun. And I have to credit Rosie Peters, our co-host tonight, with share. Oh, there's hello to Greg and Katie up in the back row. Thanks to you as well for the event last night. But I wanted to thank Rosie for being a co-host tonight. But we would like to honor Heather in the way that we do, which is to present her with a blanket. So where's Heather? Looks good on you, Heather. Yeah, but that's how we honor people who have done so much, who have done above and beyond what would be expected and made this such a wonderful event. I can't thank her enough. Yeah. And thank you, Heather, also for acknowledging that today is the first day of American Indian Month. You know, we get a whole month. But it is wonderful to acknowledge and celebrate our accomplishments with all of you. And I wanted to just say just a couple words about how important stories are in our culture. that we come from an oral storytelling tradition. And it's the way that we hold our history, it's the way that we hold our culture, it's the way that we make sure that our culture continues, that we pass it on to our children, the future generations, and it's the way that we teach ourselves how to be a good relative. So for Dakota people, the saying, Matakuye Awasi, we are all related, is right at the heart of our culture. And to be a good relative is the highest expectation and responsibility for a Dakota person. So those stories carry those teachings. And so when those stories are silenced, when that history is not acknowledged, when our presence in the mainstream media is erased, then that has an impact on our culture. And so some of the healing work that we're doing today is to bring those stories back, to honor Native writers, to uplift their voices, and to make sure that these stories and teachings continue. So for me, stories and storytelling is sacred work. These stories are living beings, and they are carrying our culture forward. So for that reason, more than any, it's so important to have brought our writers group, the Wowapi Gacha Oyate. These are writers of the people. And we are spread across South Dakota and Minnesota. These are Ocheti Shakowin writers, which means they are Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota. And this is a group that I've been working with for the past year and a half. And the stories never cease to amaze me in their depth, in their power, in their passion, and the way in which they continue to carry love and hope forward for the future. So, tonight we're going to I'm going to read my essay, and then they're going to each read a brief excerpt from some of the work that they have been working on for the past year and a half. We're also putting those pieces into an anthology that should be coming out this summer. So the essay that I'm going to read tonight is one that was kind of an interesting request from Heather that I've never been asked before for the community read, mostly because I've never been part of the communities that I go to visit. So to have this opportunity to be reflective of the place that I live and what really matters to me about this community was really a beautiful invitation, and I thank you for that too, Heather. And what I wanted to think about in living near the St. Croix River is all the voices that we don't always uplift in the way that we should as relatives. And these are the voices, these are the relatives who don't have a voice. I'm sorry, that's not right. These are the relatives who don't have our language. They are relatives who have their own language. And because of that, sometimes we don't listen the way that we should. So I wanted to write an essay that would uplift all of our relatives and remind us of the beautiful community that we are part of. You know, it is such a gift to live here in the St. Croix River Valley, and especially close to this river. So this essay is titled Love Letter to Okiju Wakpa, and that is a Dakota name for the St. Croix River. And I hope as I read, you can close your eyes and just take this journey with me. On a cool morning in early June, I paddled my little red kayak upstream from the Osceola landing on the St. Croix River, pulling hard against the current. Despite the early hour, the river was already teeming with life. A great blue heron stood motionless in the shallow water, a long-legged patience waiting to snap a fish with her serrated beak. Further on, a man and his young son floated in their small boat, waiting for a tug on their fishing lines, a tradition passed between generations. I too was fishing, casting for the wordless stories of this river. Dakota people carry an ancient relationship with this body of water, just as our more than human relatives have lived here for thousands of years. As a Dakota Wiyan, I was here to relearn the language of water and those who live on this river. I was reclaiming my own relationship with this place. With a sudden flap of her massive wings, the great blue heron took flight, returning to her rookery in the backwaters of this meandering river. A colony of squawking, swooping herons built their nests every spring in the treetops of a small island, a safe place to raise their young. As the sun warmed the rising air, a bald eagle glided in slow circles, carried far by wings spread wide. Earlier in the spring, when the river was swollen with snowmelt and early rains, a river of birds followed this flyway home: ducks, pelicans, loons, bobolinks, warblers. Their long journeys crossed lands made unsafe by hidden predators and vanishing habitat. Here on this river, sandhill cranes hunted for frogs, drank deeply, and rested. Safe for the moment, timeless songs of mating and territory carried on the wind. A sudden breeze raised insistent waves that steered me toward the riverbank. On a wooded rise just above a strip of beach, two women lounged in camp chairs as several children splashed and squealed at the water's edge. A lazy spiral of wood smoke rose from their fire. As I paddled along the shoreline, unseen fish swam beneath my boat, eluding the river otters, ospreys, and humans casting for food. Walleye spend their days in the shadows, emerging at dusk to swim in shallow waters as they hunt for yellow perch. Below the water, on the river bottom, many varieties of freshwater mussels clustered in densely formed beds, cleansing toxins and sharing nutrients for plants, fish, and insects. Closer to shore, where the cottonwoods and silver maples have unfurled their leaves, I search for a glimpse of wildflowers in bloom, wild geraniums and blue phlox. As a gardener, I was still learning the names of plants who grow wild, offering nectar and habitat for pollinators. In late summer, crimson cardinal flowers and blazing stars will feed monarch butterflies on their journey south to Mexico. Native bees know to burrow beneath fallen leaves and in hollow stems. I stopped briefly at a narrow sandbar to stretch my legs, stepping carefully on the long grass. 8 different species of turtles claim this river as home, laying their eggs in early summer. In a few months, this sun-warmed beach will be littered with the broken shells of newly hatched turtles. All along the river, a diverse community of families was raising their young, ensuring their survival for another generation. Together, we are all part of a story that has been unfolding along the river for millions of years. As I paddled further upstream, I dreamed of traveling one day to the headwaters of the river, about 130 miles north of Osceola. In a wooded bog a few miles south of Lake Superior, water rose slowly before swelling and overflowing, forming a narrow channel no bigger than a creek to a nearby lake. Water continued to move as water does, emerging from the lake's edge as a river destined to find her way south. As she traveled, the water flowed ever wider, gliding through oak woods, past islands of pine, until she reached the Dalles, the steep cliffs that channel rushing water past these layered walls. The cliffs and bluffs are remnants from a geologic history that reaches back 1 billion years ago. A great rift once threatened to rip this continent in two, spewing lava that formed the hard basalt rock of the early river gorge. An ancient sea spread across the region 500 million years ago, leaving behind sandstone cliffs. When the glaciers arrived and then receded, sliding on a belly of melted ice, they reshaped the river's course with torrential floods that carved the channel where she flows today. A few miles south of the Dalles, the glaciers also formed shallow lakes further inland, where wild rice grew in such abundance that the lakes were said to resemble a green meadow. This rice fed thousands of wild ducks and geese as they migrated through the area. Over time, some of these shallow lakes evaporated, while others began the long process of forming a bog. A few miles from the river, the bog near my home gives water a place to rest. As my kayak passed riverfront homes with their long docks and tethered pontoons, the water connected me to my Dakota ancestors, to the stories of the indigenous peoples who came here thousands of years earlier, when woolly mammoths and mastodons still roamed the land. Traces of their lives can be found in tools and spearheads left behind on the riverbanks. As generations passed, our ancestors traveled the river in early canoes made of birch bark or hollowed logs. Camps along the forested banks were used by the Anishinaabe who came from the north, trading copper tools and red pipestone with Dakota people living farther south. Traveling the river offered time to visit and feast, to trade medicinal and food plants, and swap seeds grown in gardens of corn, beans, and squash. On cool spring nights, the season known as Wetu, travelers camping along the river searched the sky for constellations that served as calendar markers for planting, moving camp, and ceremony. On a clear night, seeing the Wichinchala, Shakoin, or Seven Girls reminded them it was time to plant the corn. They would have felt the seeds waking, their energy responding to longer daylight, warmer nights. As seasonal villages sprang up along the river, the Dakota fished, gardened, and gathered food for winter. Life was rich with ceremonies, songs, prayers, and creating beauty in the things they made. Potters knew where to find clay along the river to form it into wood-fired vessels that bore the designs and mark of the maker. Pottery so well made that fragments remain 1,000 years later. Long before the river was renamed St. Croix for a 17th century trader, the Dakota gave her names that described their relationship to this river or told a story about their experience on the water. Okiju Wakpa, river where they plant, remembers the ancestors who grew gardens in the fertile floodplains. The standing cedars, Hante Nazim, marked an old boundary between Dakota and Anishinaabe territory. The Anishinaabe knew this body of water as Menominee Keshin Zibi. Apologies to all you Ojibwe out there. The Ricebird River, referring to the bobolink who migrate between the rice fields of South and North America. Further downriver, near Stillwater, the river's name shifts to Hogan o Wankakin, where the fish lies, referring to a legend about a hunter who was transformed into a giant fish that in turn became a sandbar where boats were occasionally stranded. Below what is now the city of St. Paul, Hogan o Wankakin joins the Mississippi River as she curves east, just below a confluence of rivers known to the Dakota as Bedote and the center of our creation story. We are also known as the Wichachpi Oyate, the star people, whose spirits came from the Milky Way and emerged here as human beings. Water is our first medicine, and the places where she gathers are sacred. Water holds these memories still. And yet, in the name of civilization, over the past 200 years, extraordinary harm has been done to this river through logging, agricultural runoff, and industrial pollution. But the story does not need to end there. Together, as a community of people who all love this river, we can continue to protect this water and the many relatives who live here. As I turned my kayak toward home, grateful to be paddling with the current, I thought about the ancestors who left behind a faded pictograph on a cliff wall upriver from the turtles' nesting beach. Symbolic images made with careful strokes of red paint told a story of the people who traveled this river long ago. What lesson, what teaching, what message had they intended to leave behind? This was one of the stories I had come here to find. Perhaps they wanted to remind us that we all, plants, animals, fish, mussels, birds, insects, humans, we all need water to survive. Living near the Okiju-Wakpa, the St. Croix River, is a gift that also carries responsibility. We begin by offering gratitude, learning her story, tending her needs with loving care that respects the sanctity of the river, our relatives, and our future generations. In Dakota, we say, Matakuye Owasi, which means we are all related. As relatives, we are responsible for taking care of each other, from our sacred waterways to our smallest insects. This is the teaching of reciprocity. We take care of the water, and she takes care of us. We are one circle, co-creating the world together. Vidamaya. So I'm going to introduce our first reader from Wowapi Kaga Kalcha. They've been coaching me, Oyate. And Jean is very special because she is the co-mentor for the group. So a few years ago, Jean and I were in a Dakota language class together, and I said, "Hey Jean, let's organize a writing group." And Jean said, "Yeah, let's do it." So, so Jean Nahamani Mani Zuza Iyayawi is a Dakota Hunk Pati, a writer of indigenous fiction, nonfiction, traditional Dakota stories. Her grandparents, where's Jean? Come on up, Jean. Her grandparents are George and Lucille Badger Turner from Fort Thompson, South Dakota. She sews ribbon skirts, Dakota cloth dolls. She's a member of the Indigenous Journalists Association, the American Night Writers Association, the Bushmasters 114 Auxiliary, and the Wowapi Gacha Oyate. And I just want to thank you, Jean, for doing all this work with me.
Vidako Yepi, hello relatives. Zuya Iayawi Imakiapi, they call me Goes to War. And I am Dakota Hunkpati, and I reside on the Croix Sioux Reservation in South Dakota. And Diane is one of my heroes. I was so appreciative that we have this group. I wrote the story, 7 Years Caged, because it's about my great-grandmother, Pearl Zitkana Ziwi Badger. Her father's name was Hiha Koyag Mani, walks wearing owl feathers. And I wanted people to share, my grandmother went to Haskell boarding school, and my mother went to Crow Creek Immaculate boarding school, and I was in the Pure Indian boarding school, and it was the worst 2 years of my life. So I wanted to share that, and my family were plagued with alcohol because of what they had gone through boarding schools. And during the pandemic, there was this online course, and I took it. So I wrote this story dedicated to my big grandma. Unchi Tonka. Unchi is grandmother, Tonka is great, but you know, as kids we translated as big too, something big, even though she was barely 4'11". So we called her Big Grandma. And it was because of her perseverance. When she was born in 1872, and on the Croix Reservation, just east of Fort Thompson. Her mother, Tateho, Ho'ohotani, appearing voice. She had a teepee pitched outside their makeshift log cabin so she could be born closer to Earth, and it was in November. And when she went off to boarding school, there was no choice. They were taken to Highmore, they were put on trains, and some of the families, the military came and said, your child has to go away to boarding school. She was 14, she didn't come back. She graduated in 4 years, and then she was given in servitude to the Quakers for 3 years. And then she finally, in exchange of letters, because she learned how to speak English and write, she went home to her parents, and they gave her money to get a train back to South Dakota from Pennsylvania. Her grandmother was Tategriwi, comes home with the wind, and I acknowledge that our Dakota relatives are in this area, and that is who we are descendants of, and it's because of the strong families and their names that I and my sister, we have become survivors. So when she was on that train, my sister, who was 2 years older than me, and my aunt, who was my age, they got to go to town, you know, and they got to go to the Tasty Freeze, they got to get cheeseburgers and fries and ice cream cones, but I was made to sit home with Big Grandma, to grandma sit. But she would tell me these stories, and I'm so glad she did, because she shared the creation story. She shared about Ishnati, a woman's menses, but when she talked about that journey back, she hadn't seen or talked to her family for 7 years. And when she was on that train, and I don't remember where, halfway, she saw them. Can you imagine not having seen your family for 7 years? And she went to them, but they were worried that they would be given trouble again, so they hurried and got back on the train and came back to South Dakota. And she was older, so they married her off, and she had an arranged marriage, and she had 8 children, and sadly to say, only 2 survived into adulthood. The other 6, most of them passed from tuberculosis. And my grandmother, Ogada, Chaku Ogada, Scattered Road, she had 1 daughter, and that's Akichita, my mother, soldier woman. She was enlisted during the Korean War, and then my mother had my sister, and I Ohiti Kawi, and Zuya Iayawi is my name. And I asked my grandma, and it translates to goes to war. And I said, Grandma, why'd you give me that name? And she said, to make you strong. And it has made me strong many, many times. But you know, my big grandma, she did not have any bias. She judged a person by their works. And she would talk about how there's good Washichus and Shicha Washichus, people of other nations that are bad, but she said there's also Dakota who are Shicha, and Shicha translates as rotten. So once a person, they use that word sparingly, and that if they did, it meant somebody was really dark-hearted and mean-spirited. And in all that, she would teach the things she taught me growing up with my family, you know, from the reason why I was taken out of home, I missed too much school because of my family drinking, you know, alcoholism plagued my grandpa and grandma who raised me. But she always, the things that stuck in my head that kept with me to make me strong was, 1, always acknowledge and pray to Wakantaka, the Great Spirit, the Creator. And prayer was very important. You know, I'd be up all night listening to alcoholics fight, and I'd run over to Big Grandma's and she'd say, okay, let's face the east and pray. And I was confused, but I know she was teaching me. And the second was Dakota ways and language. And so I try hard, and I preach hard to learn, and I've had to reacquaint myself with my own language. That's how I met Diane. And so when, and a lot of times, she was the one who lectured me completely. We are not Sioux. Sioux is a made-up word. And it's like Nadi, Sioux, it's an Ojibwe or Anishinaabe word. And when the French, like drapeau, D-R-A-P-E-A-U, that's flag, but if you add an X on it, it's flags, it makes it plural. So my big grandma, she would say, you're not Sioux, you're Dakota. So I grew up with that strength. And when I got older, I realized how empowered I was to have that blessing in my life. And so when I wrote this story about her, to acknowledge all her hardships and challenges and her strength, for her grandmother, who was exiled out of Minnesota, they shared stories about when they were at Fort Snelling, how they communicated. They said, this is where everybody goes to the bathroom. This is who has these type of supplies. This is who can share their needle and thread. So those little stories that I hold cherished to my heart. So when I wrote this story, 7 Years Caged, it was because she then became, it made her stronger, and that is what we teach in Dakota way. I am Dakota Hunkpati. When we were on the Croix Creek Reservation, we were the last to come out of Minnesota. We went down to St. Louis on boat and came up. A lot of our relatives got off at, not Flanger, what's Santee, Nebraska. So we have very close distant relatives there. So so we got a new band name, Hunkpati, which means to camp at the other end of the circle. So I always tell, and I've taught my 3 children, you always say, I am Dakota Hunkpati Oyate. And I encourage everyone to teach your family histories. And sometimes when I come across people who struggle in life with addictions or depression, and I share my story and I ask them to think stories, sometimes they have new stories. But that is up to each and one of us to create those. I appreciate this. Mitaku, Owasen, thank you to everybody. Pray for all my people, Omas, Wasina, and pray for all nations. Fidamaya. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Gabrielle Tate Yushkashka. Gabrielle Wind Tate Yushkashka lives in a rural community of Tokanuwa, or Enemy Swim, on the Lake Travis Reservation in South Dakota. She is a multi-dimensional artist with the disciplines of jingle dress and traditional style dances, a visual artist, writer, and poet. Gabrielle is a longtime member of the Ocheti Shakoi Writers Society. She is also a member of the Wowapi Gaga Oyate Writers, which translates to Writers for the People. Gabrielle is one of 6 women featured in Leah Hale's documentary film, Saksanicha. And if you were to find that Saksanicha, it's a YouTube video, and it's about how the women have their traditional dress. So I encourage you to go look at it. And I'd like to introduce Gabrielle.
That's a traditional Dakota greeting when you greet relatives in a large group or community setting. This piece is entitled The Truth We Know. Double woman gifted Wea with artistic inspiration, a way to express their human experience. How does one articulate the truth about the unspeakable? Music doesn't require lyrics. There are Dakota Odoa, or songs, where they have no words. Quillwork, beadwork, drawings, and paintings are visual and do not require spoken language. Poems and prose cannot exist without words. How does one express on the page what their mind knows? When it comes to the intense heartbreak of the unspeakable, How do we convey the generational trauma of precious Wakaija and cherished elders, murdered by American military? How do we reveal the terror of scalps of the vulnerable, taken by soldiers and citizen militia for bounty payments? To give voice to the anguish of concentration camps. How to expose the story of innocent children stolen from their tiwahe or family, beaten, raped, starved to death in government boarding schools. The anguish of not knowing the fate of the disappeared. Words will never get it right for hurt so deep. This next piece is about the prairie rose. In early summer, like the stroke of a brush across the verdant prairie fields, petals of pale to intense magenta color the grasslands. The heart-shaped petals embellish the landscape. In late summer, the ripened, bright red fruit generously provides for the many songbirds on the northern plains, given in gratitude for their summer songs. This piece is called Traveling Odoa. Odoa means song. The long shadows of songs fade slowly into the summer evening. The dance arbor is silent, empty. Memories of dancers, their movements echo in the stillness. Expressions remain, creating a space for remembrance, a place that brings back the voices, the rhythmic sounds of bells, the drum's heartbeat. Dance is about joy, laughter, and happiness, a life force that will accompany me as I travel home. Pidamaya. Patty Bordeaux Nelson. We are Lutawi. Patty Bordeaux Nelson is Sichangu, Rosebud Lakota Nation. We are Lutawi has been a member of the Ocheti Shakoin Writers Society since 2008. Her writing has appeared in Richazo Shaw Review, Studies in American Indian Literature, We're Still Here, Hesapo wo Ihamble, and History of the Lake County. She lives in Madison, South Dakota.
Straighten myself up here. Vidaki, Daya Lehaim Biki Levahina Chanteki Lila Mawashte. It's very good to be here tonight. My heart is feeling very happy to be here. So, Vidaki Yokoyasmi. Pilamaya Tini. Thank you. A little short. I was raised by grandparents Ziziwi, Carrie Rubidu Bordeaux, and Trakhanka Maza, Francis Bordeaux. I have had the privilege of being told family stories, which I now have the responsibility to share with the next generation. As I began my journey, my personal Zuya, to unearth the stories from my memory, I was reading a book called Sage Warrior by Valerie Kaur. Kaur's descendants are from the Punjab region of India. Their story is much like our Ocheti Shakoin traumatic history. I read this statement in her book. I was so focused on lifting up our pain that I rarely had a chance to share our wisdom. Upon reading that, I knew that I must focus on the wisdom, courage, spirituality, and resilience of Mi'unchi, my grandparents. The story I will share is about my great-great-grandmother, Unchi Jackson. I titled my essay, Unchi Wokiksuya, Remembering Our Grandmothers. It is difficult to fill the gaps of the fragmented stories from my own limited research and unearthing from the tidbits of my memory. I know that my Unchi Jackson was born in 1855 near Fort Laramie, Wyoming. That was the year of the Blue Water Creek Massacre, which occurred September 2nd and 3rd, 1855, near present-day Garden County, Nebraska. She was 21 years of age when the Greasy Grass Battle took place, and 35 years when the Wounded Knee Massacre took place. Unchi Jackson went on to her spirit journey at the age of 75 on September 4th, 1930, at Rosebud, South Dakota. Unchi Jackson was ina to Charles Rubidoux, who was my Unchi Ziziwi's ate, which means father. As I piece together dates and remember other stories, the reality that the Wia of my Tiwahe were born and lived at a time when colonizers brutally intruded upon our Lakota lifeways. They survived an apocalypse, the end of their world. Yet, as I recall the stories, I clearly see their courage, strength, bravery, and perseverance. This superpower they possessed was their Lakota spirituality that was held in the altar of their hearts. The altar they carried in their chante, their hearts, could not be taken from them. Ihani. Unchi Ziziwi began every story with the word Ihani, meaning a very long time ago. So she said to me, Ihani, when Ate, her father, Charles Rubidoux, was a young boy, his baby Misu, which means brother, got very sick. His mother, Unchi Jackson, did all she could using pejuta she knew to cure a fever and a cough. Baby Misu continued to worsen. Unchi Jackson instructed her son to go to the Tioshpae, or the family of Matho Pejuta, and ask him to come and doctor baby Misu. Matho Pejuta means bear doctor. It was a cold winter day, the snow was deep. Charles hurried to get his horse ready and went on his way to Matho Pejuta's Tioshpae. Upon arrival, Charles was welcomed inside to warm himself. Charles shared why he had come. Matho Pejuta spared no time to prepare to leave. Charles assisted him to hitch the horses to the buckboard wagon and tied his horse to the back of the buckboard wagon. They wrapped themselves in extra blankets and they headed straight for Charles's home. The days are short in the winter months. The sun was moving toward the west. They arrived as the night was upon them. Matho Pejuta climbed down from the buckboard wagon. Unchi Jackson was anxiously waiting. She opened the door, inviting him in. Matho Pejuta asked Unchi Jackson to bring him a bowl of dried choke cherries soaked in water. He then told her to unwrap baby Misu. He was very limp and feverish. Matho Pejuta lifted the bowl of softened choke cherries to his mouth. And as he opened his mouth over the bowl, a miniature Matho, which means bear, walked out of the mouth into the bowl of choke cherries. Matho Pejuta cupped his hand for Matho to walk into. Matho Pejuta then gently placed Matho upon baby Misu's chest. Matho gently walked and breathed on baby Misu. Matho's breath covered baby Misu with a mist of fog. As the mist enveloped baby Misu, he began to kick and wiggle. Then he began to cry. Matho Pejuta said to Unchi Jackson, he is well now, and he's hungry. Matho Pejuta asked for a bowl of water. He placed the miniature Matho in the bowl of water. He lifted the bowl to his lips, and as he drank the water, Matho disappeared within. As I reflected, I was struck by the ordinary way my Unchi shared this significant family account. She wanted me to know that our Lakota spirituality was part of our everyday life. These Unchi stories are wrapped in our DNA. We are connected to our grandmother's past, and future generations are wrapped in the stories of our Unchi. We have a powerful and beautiful Lakota legacy. It is our birthright. Wopila, thank you. Mitakuye, oyasi. enrolled in Croix. She lives in Fort Thompson, South Dakota. Jackie is a poet, a writer with Woapikaha Oyate. Jackie has been writing poetry and songs since college and is also currently working on several short stories in the sci-fi and fantasy genres. Passionate about her community, Jackie has served in church, suicide prevention, chronic disease education, and her home being a safe place for others. She loves studying language and singing with the Dakota Hymn Group. A research nerd, often lost in deep conversation, crochet, D&D, warm spring rains, cats, hot tea, and books. Jackie hopes her works will add to the diversity of Native voices, challenge and inspire, and to tell complete stories. So I welcome Jackie.
I'm really glad Patty was before me because she's also short. My first piece is in response to the Executive Order 14224, the English as the official language. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of referenced by some of my other fellow writers. The boarding school era and a lot of the government policies did incredible harm to our people, and the language and culture was outlawed. I was actually going to look up the exact date on my phone, but it escapes my memory now while I'm before you. But please, I encourage you, go look up those exact dates. It is sooner than you think it is. This is not past history. It is very much present and with us. And this was my response to that. Dakota Iabikte. Damakota Nakun Wamashichu. I'm both. I'm all of who I am and you. Dakotia Wichoye Dena Efekte. I will speak Dakota words every day. To speak in many languages reflects the beauty of your diverse creation. All nations, tribes, and tongues will one day praise him around the throne. So how dare the leader holding a pen in his hand claim English alone? We and hundreds others spoke tongues on this land before English was even heard on its shores. History has already taught us this class. For many languages, new and old, make up this land. So a horrific lie and abuse was already done to marry gospel to destruction of culture and tongue. I will not stand and let the church again be apart. We can praise in varied ways. Don't you know? Language blesses the Creator's heart. Language speaks of what we value, of how we see the world, like drum beats and songs of heart and soul. The language is tied to who we are, makes us whole. Word upon word, teaching, culture, and story is language shaped. Words matter. Some things can only be said in languages you may have never heard or read. So learn to speak in language new. It's to see from another's point of view and learn something about yourself and people too. So these Dakota words I will say, I will speak my Dakota language with many slips, and though my steps may be uneven, Dakota Iapikte, you will not take that away. My second piece is some words on words. When the words are there, it's like a river flowing from my heart, a thing I can't control. When words are not, it's like searching in the dark, seeking a forgotten memory or place I used to know. Sometimes they are trapped, pieces fractured on the floor. Sometimes they scream out to be heard. Self-doubt, hesitation, caution, crowd, and close the door. Still, be brave. Bleed the heart onto the page. Suddenly there, passionate, strong, then in a moment, gone. Ephemeral. Like water through my fingers, they slip away. Yet, their simple touch on my heart stays, and an impact to make, lasting beyond this day. They echo through the halls of my mind, rhythm then giving rise to song, and many times they were there. Then, the burn and pain and fog and brain wisp them away. Gone. Now, when I add or change them, they become hard to control, never quite the same. Like a dam on a river, it's lost its wild soul. Oh, words, I have so many, and so many I fail to say. Words, you are my friend, and an elusive mystery, a sacred responsibility at the end of the day. For words, you have so much power. Now tread careful how you go. Wound or bless, convict, condemn, wither, or uplift the soul. Break or mend, teach or silence. What stories will we tell? Now words into the world I speak, from lips to heart you land, from my heart to my hand, but I know not how you'll grow. And it is my joy and honor to introduce Livia Nightpipe. Jennifer, oh, I skipped ahead. Jennifer Irving is Oglala Lakota. She's a communicator, storyteller, artist, and mother from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. She leads communications and marketing at Machpialuta, where she helps share stories that celebrate Lakota strength and culture. She loves laughing, cooking, beading, sewing, and writing, and lives on the Nebraska-South Dakota border with her daughter, Maria.
Hi, Mom. Hey. She's somewhere watching the interwebs. Hamidakyapi, Jennifer Irving, Amachapi, Chante Washtenape, Chiuzapikisto. I want to greet you all with a good heart and a warm handshake. And I was looking tonight, I was like, am I the only Lakota? And I was like, no, there's a couple of us up here. And I'm like, oh, I'm the only Oglala. So I have to represent very well. In the grand scheme of the Ocheti Shankowi, the Oglalas are the most western of our relatives, and that makes us responsible for being the first defense on that side. And so tonight I'd like to acknowledge and dedicate my reading to our young relatives who are protecting Peshla today. So, all right. I'm gonna read an excerpt from a story I'm working on called Braided Lightning. Kayla had been walking a while, ponytail swishing behind her, when the sky grew darker. Heavy clouds rolled in fast, thick with the weight and smell of summer rain and the sound of thunder. She was well ahead of the group, keeping a brisk pace until she spotted a shaded granite outcropping and decided to stop to wait for the others. Dropping her pack, she stepped off the trail to find a place to pee. She figured she was far enough from the trail and away from prying eyes when everything changed. The wind stopped, the air turned unnaturally still, every hair on her body stood on end,
and a sharp metallic taste filled her mouth. And then, crack. The sky tore open with a sound louder than anything she'd ever heard. Then she saw it, the lightning. Just to her right, a blinding strike hit the ground, maybe 15 yards away. As she turned her head, a second bolt raced across the forest floor. Time seemed to fall away in slow motion. Her body froze, mind locked and mesmerized by the streak of lightning, headed straight for her, braiding itself with the earth. Then the bolt struck her. So this story, Braided Lightning, follows 16-year-old Kayla Standing Horse, a Lakota high school student who's just started a summer internship with her tribe's historic preservation office. During an orientation hike to Black Elk's Peak, a sudden summer storm changes everything, and Kayla is struck by lightning, which is where we left off. When Kayla wakes up, she wakes up to another Lakota girl named Pearl, who is helping her. But as the day continues, Kayla discovered Pearl is not quite what she's seen. Beyond time, the woods were quiet, eerily so. No distant chatter of early morning hikers, no buzz of cell phones or walkie-talkies, just wind through the pines and the occasional sound of Pearl's boots crunching over the soft ground. Kayla tried to make conversation. So you said your camp is by the creek? Pearl nodded. My family stays there. We come here when the berries ripen for the earth paint. Earth paint? Kayla raised an eyebrow. Pearl said, red from the creek banks, yellow from flowers. We mix it with tallow. That was unexpected. Kayla had learned about that in Lakota culture class, but no one did that anymore, not really. Her mind burned with questions, but the urge to get help won out, and she kept pushing forward. The trail came into view, thanks to Kanshula, and just beyond it through the trees, Kayla saw the shimmer of sunlight off windshields. Yes, the parking lot. We're almost there, Kayla said, relief washing over her. Once we get down there, someone will help us. But as they stepped through the tree line and the full view of the lot came into sight, rows of shiny cars and SUVs, a van with the Tribal Historic Preservation logo, and the rustic restrooms at the trailhead, Pearl froze. She gasped and stumbled backwards, clutching Kayla's arm. Her eyes widened with fear and darted from the cars to the recycling bin to the signpost with the bold white letters, Black Elk Peak Trailhead. What is this? Pearl whispered. Kayla turned to look at her. Pearl's face had drained of color, her breathing sharp and fast. It's the parking lot, Kayla said slowly. Pearl shook her head. Are these wagons? Where are the horses? That tree, it's metal. How come everything shines like that? Kayla stepped back next to Pearl. This wasn't just confusion, this was something else. Wait, you said you camped here. Pearl, do you live here, like in the hills? Pearl nodded slowly. Kayla searched her mind for understanding. The lightning, the feeling like time had stopped, the realization washed over her. Could it be? Pearl, she asked cautiously, what year is it? Pearl looked confused and responded, the year? My Aunt Day says it's 1925. Kayla's heart dropped, her mind raced. What? Pearl confirmed, yeah, 1925. Kayla took a deep breath. Could this really be happening? Pearl, I don't think you're from here, Kayla said slowly. I mean, I don't think you are from this time, because the year is 2025. I don't know. You said there would be one up here, there isn't. It's my pleasure to introduce Livia Nightpipe, for real this time. Livia Nightpipe, an emerging writer, is Sichafu. Her Lakota name is Ho Wakawi. Livia is the great-great-granddaughter of Alfred and Angelique Nightpipe and Francis and Carrie Bordeaux of the Rosebud Lakota Nation, fellow Lakota. Her paternal grandmother is Wia Lutawi, Patty Bordeaux Nelson, who you heard from earlier. Livia resides in Lincoln, Nebraska, and she is a member of art group Mowapi Kaka Oyate. Libya.
Such a pleasure to be before you all tonight. I wish I could give you some traditional Lakota greeting, but unfortunately I don't know that much. I have two pieces to share with you tonight. One that was inspired by the events that happened earlier this year in the state of Minnesota, and one that just came to me today while we were visiting some burial mounds and reflecting on our own history. This first one is titled Injustice. I often find myself getting lost in utopian fiction, to dream of a world without our greed, prejudice, and where people can live in peace and plenty. I thought that was the world I was born into, where my country came to terms with its past and I could speak truth without fear of reprisal, where people could live free without judgment and with themselves. Then a man was choked to death in the street for his skin, and the facade shattered for the color of his skin. Tarred as terrorists and troublemakers by kings and clansmen, put down without humanity, and with them our ideal of liberty, the circle of acceptance shrank down to those few big whites and their hollow, broken light. Incapable of letting go of their power, they fashioned towers of bone, too indebted to buy ivory. Suckling on the desiccated teat of an inheritance long burnt, they make a new milk out of the blood of those they call expendable, pooling with the filth of industry to fashion a moat around the church of the almighty dollar. Drained and hollow, those without try to swim across, only for their lungs to clog with soot and their spirit broken upon their circle. This is not an unintended consequence. It is the goal, to prop up the bastard child of consumption and might. The law vanishes into mist, and the rule of force replaces it. When obedience becomes servile living, we can only judge for ourselves how far our resistance ought to go. The second piece is called Reflection. What do a group hold on to when their way of life and identity are taken away from them? When their memories and traditions get more and more distant until they are only kept in the written word and their elders? Is it resentment that they hold on to rage against the dying light of yesterday in the hopes that the brush catches and the pyre of a people ignored will burn brighter than any other? Or is it hope we must hold on to come together as family, build each other back up, and to create a future with one another, trying to forge a new identity, shaded by the past, but the first strand in a tapestry to stretch into eternity. Yet one path is well-trodden, an easy walk, and one is overgrown, forgotten amidst the forest of all possibilities. The trail of trading blood for blood leads only to a world of more suffering, of eons past, of the rule of the strong. Yet nation building is no easy task. When a people share 1,000 languages, divided since time immemorial, many more caught up in wallowing in what they lost, rather than remembering what they still have, and ignoring the infinite possibilities of a new tradition to be shared amongst family. I cannot pretend to know the right path. My heart aches for what never was and what once was, but I yearn to have an identity of my own, one shared amongst all the firstborn on Turtle Island. We must learn from the past, or we are doomed to burn. And I have the pleasure of introducing Deanna Stans. Deanna Hongpamon, an enrolled member of the Yankton Sioux tribe, is from Wagner, South Dakota. She is a retired educator, but still serves on several boards and committees of the Yankton Sioux tribe and other organizations. In addition to writing and serving, she enjoys traveling, but only to places where she knows people.
It's true.
last sentence, and I don't know you all. But, I came here with them, so I know them. Mental illness can be in any family, can afflict any individual. This is what happened in my family. I am happy to report that things are so much better after therapy, medications, changes in diet, and self-awareness. My story. Until a terrifying statement came, "They're gonna kill me today." This is Long Labyrinth home. Chatang, my fourth born, and a male, is a mental fighter. He's had to be. It was not his choice, as told in this narrative. Energetic, inquisitive, sensitive, he excelled at whatever he set out to do. High school, college, but he expressed doubts about what major. He called me about once a week to check in and visit. The phone calls became less in frequency. I tried not to worry. Hepan, Chatang's oldest brother, was coming back to the United States from Afghanistan sometime in January. Chatang offered to help drive from South Dakota to Seattle, Washington. He had not spoken much at the start of the trip and slept a great deal that first day. The next day, it turned into the fun road trip. I drove, and then Chatang would drive. We listened to music and sang along with my 70s and 80s music. I enjoyed his animated company. He told several funny stories, we laughed. What a great trip. We started out early the next day because we could be in Seattle before the evening rush hour. Chatang wanted to stop at different rest areas along the interstate. Curiously, he did not want to go into any gas stations to get his choice of snacks, asking me to get his stuff. So okay, I did. As we got closer to Seattle, he began to express doubts about the trip. "Mom, yeah, what? Why are we going on this trip again?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Had he forgotten? "Well, your brother is flying back from Afghanistan, and we're going to be there when they get back." "Oh, what if Hepan doesn't want to see me? What will we do then?" Why was he saying all of this now? We were almost there. Should I turn around? He continued rambling, his voice quavering. He had tears in his eyes. "I don't know if I should be there. Do we have to go? What if the Army knows that I dropped out of ROTC?" I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. He eventually calmed down, put his headphones on, and quit talking, dozing once again, shades on and faint music drifting from his headphones. We'll arrive later than I had planned, and my daughter-in-law showed up to lead us to their place. We followed her, and after some settling down, Chatang went to sleep in a room. Hepan was due back the next day, late in the afternoon. The next morning, we caravaned to the base. We were in a big room. A large army green curtain divided the reception area, but soon opened. No family members moved. All was silent. I scanned faces, looking for my son, my Hepan, who was in one of those long rows facing us, standing at attention. Then came the dismissed, and everyone surged towards each other, rushing to embrace each other. Where was Hepan? He found us, and we hugged and went to the cars. My daughter-in-law had cooked a good meal, and we joyously shared that. Hipon joked with Chatan and he laughed. It was a happy time. I was up by 6 o'clock the next morning. Hipon joined me. He asked how Chatan really was and shared that during the night, Chatan had freaked out and made statements about people chasing him and how he had to get away. I was stunned. Hipon asked what was wrong with him. I just shook my head. After 4 days at their house, we left. We crossed the Cascades before a big snowstorm. Black ice glazed the road. I was tired and asked Chatan to drive. We stopped in Missoula. He went swimming. Back in the room, he exclaimed how relaxed he now felt. He seemed his old self. I slept well. The next day, the signs of impending problems appeared. Chatan did not want to drive, did not want to listen to music, also refused to go into gas stations. He wore his sunglasses and pulled his cap down over his eyes. He slept most of the day. Once at home, Chatan said that he did not want to go back to university. When I asked him why, he said that people didn't like him there. When I asked him who that was, he just said it was people. Again, tears in his eyes. I told him to stay home if this is what he truly wanted to do. He hugged me and told me thank you. I didn't see him until late the next day. At one point, I even listened outside his door, and after hearing his snores, told myself he was okay. He was not okay, though. In the next days, he had odd and alarming questions. Why is that camera on? And the DVD player below the TV. Who's calling me from outside? He would rush out of his room into the kitchen to ask me, where are you going and when will you be back? It was my part-time work. Do you have to go? Why can't you stay home? My answers were short and I thought adequate, but he acted scared. When I returned from work, he'd usually be asleep, so I let it alone until the terrifying statement came. They're gonna kill me today. This caught me off guard. Chatan had come into the living room one afternoon while I was working at my table. He appeared disheveled and talked gruffly. They're out there and they're gonna kill me today. I gasped and stared at him. He continued, they're recording me, as he sat at right angles from the DVD TV and listening to me. They're outside now and waiting for me. His voice getting louder and louder. I didn't know what to do or say except to deny that anyone was out to get him. So there we were in the living room, shouting at each other. I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless. We prayed, we smudged, and I made myself available, stayed in his sight. It was exhausting to be around him. Not only did Chatan make those scary statements, but he would endlessly argue with me about mundane things. Mom, why did you put the clock on the wall above the window? Because that way everyone can see it. Who's everyone, Mom? Are there more people living in this house? No, it's just us. I can move the clock back to where it used to be. No, just leave it. Well, okay then, I snapped at him. Are you sure it's just me and you living here? I hear other people talking sometimes. I know there's people living here. Don't lie to me. Again, I reassured him that it was only him and me living in the house. This is what arguing was like with him, sometimes lasting up to an hour and a half and occurring once or twice a day. This went on for about 2 weeks. I dreaded interacting with him. Finally, he asked if he could see a doctor at the Indian Health Service. It was about 9 o'clock at night. The physician asked him questions and Chatan answered, describing how people were mad at him and might kill him, how difficult it was for him to sleep, and how so very tired he was of all the noise inside his head. The physician said that for this one time he was going to give him a sedative to help him sleep through the night. When I asked the doctor what could possibly be wrong with Chetan, he shared that it could possibly be adult onset schizophrenia. How could this have happened? What went wrong? What would happen to him in the next week or months? When we got home, he went to bed. I sat at the kitchen table. I felt relief that he had a sedative tonight, which meant there would be no midnight arguing, that I could possibly sleep soundly and not awake at any slight noise. And yet part of me was mourning the loss of my son's intellectual abilities, the loss of his confidence. I sat at the kitchen table, the coffee getting cold and undrinkable. I felt sorry for him. I felt hopeless for him. I had some hope from the doctor's words tonight, but how could it get better for Chetan? I then prayed for help for him and our family. I got up and prepared for bed. As I laid in bed and after my prayers for others, and especially for Chetan, I could finally sleep. Adult onset schizophrenia, young adult onset schizophrenia. There was possibly a name for what was happening to Chetan. Tomorrow, I'd have to start looking on the internet to find out about it. I end with this quote from a Frenchman, Victor Hugo from Les Miserables. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise again. As I said at the beginning, yes, things have gotten better. He finished a degree in computer science. And has a job. I don't know how he did it. I mean, computer science? Okay. Zilja Mansour is a poet that has been influenced by her personal experiences and the community she surrounds herself with. Her mother, Rosetta Peters, has been her biggest inspiration throughout her life. Zilja lives in St. Croix Valley, which is surrounded by the beauty of nature that connects her to a sense of awe and belonging that provides an inspiration for her poetry. Let us welcome Zilja.
It's more scary up here. Alright, I'm gonna start off with Crossroad Poem. I thought the path would pull me near, to hope or hurt, to love or fear. To her bright dreams, soft spoken wide, are shadows he can never hide. The road split open, dark and deep, a place where promises don't sleep. I stood between the stars and smoke, the vow she made, the curse he broke. I met her first, my mother's grace, the sun was written on her face. She smiled like she had always known the seeds of fire I had overgrown. You are more than pain or quiet rage, she said as the wind turned every page. You carry light inside your skin, a world that waits to let you in. Her voice was calm, her hands were warm, a gentle force beneath the storm. I felt like I could rise, expand, until I saw the other man. My father's karma stood so still, a mountain carved from iron will. His silence echoed what he'd done in all the fights he never won. He looked like me, but years behind, a soul with time they couldn't find. No blame, no fire, no soft embrace, just ghosts that lived behind his face. He didn't speak, I didn't run. We watched the sky absorb the sun, and though his past had touched my name, I felt no guilt, I felt no shame. So I moved forward, not to choose, but knowing I had paid my dues. Born of her stars and shaped by him, the light and dark within each limb. And in that space, I finally see they walk so I could come to me. And my next poem is called Where I Am From. I'm from cigarette butts and bruised knees, from lost memories and alcohol breath. I'm from the yellow bus on Main Street and long walks and trails leading me to a quiet place where I can clear my head. I'm from broken promises, from stolen happiness and eyes that couldn't stop watering, unanswered calls. From a woman that couldn't stop working, that was out of reach, and intoxicated siblings. I'm from Rock Point Church. I'm from Everything Okay, Where Did You Get That Bruise? From an absent father that never wanted me to be his, a home where the walls remember what they shouldn't. Where I'm from, being hurt was never a shock. It's a normal thing. I'm from social workers approaching sirens and hospital visits. I'm from unconditional love, family hangouts at Square Lake Beach, aloe vera green gel. I'm from Disney princesses and jealousy of perfect families on TV. I'm from broken wood and white paint, black mold that made me sick. From packing up and leaving, time not spent. I'm from generational trauma and PTSD-infused brains. From an unsafe man being let into the house pretending to be a dad that only knew how to sexually assault. I'm from I'm sorry. I'm from bonds that knew how to speak love or only hate, liars, drug dealers, problem makers. I'm from high school dropouts looking for a way out of everything except for the taste of drugs. I'm from fists unleashed, purple and black spots trailing the body. I'm from bail money and 25-cent candy, broken screen doors and windows. From it takes a village to raise a child. I'm from hardships and friendships, the lonely road. I'm from a place that never really felt like home. Home was found in people instead. From the crushed can dinner nights that ended in a fight. I'm from the bad times, pain, and disbelief. I'm from skiing, rollerblading, and bike rides. From ultimate Frisbee Sundays, Marine Elementary Park. I'm from family nights at Acapulco, movie nights at Oakdale. From agate hunting trips, vacation to the Taylor family cabin, and grandpa and granddaughter days. I'm from poetry readings and teenage relationships. From the shallow end, the deep dive, and car rides. From always and forever. I'm from the storyline, the fairy tale, and adventure. From the new beginning and ending. I'm from the lemonade stand business, 4th of July fireworks. From handwritten letters, birthday, and Christmas gifts. I'm from the good times, being in love and feeling alive. I'm from rain on St. Croix, Brookside Bar and Grill, arrow broken poetry, and church basement fighters. I'm from the good and bad, the ups and downs, and each moment that has shaped me into the person I am today. To introduce Ellen Zacharias. Ellen Zacharias is a member of the Shakopee Bide-Wakantawan Dakota community. She is a lifelong resident in Minnesota, Makoche. She is a mother and she loves to travel.
This is a part of a story that I'm putting together. The young girl called Rosie, by all who knew her, had just turned 13. Summer break had just started. Already she was the tallest kid in her class and feared that by fall she would surpass even the teachers, as though she didn't feel gawky enough. More teasing was a sure thing. Already her skin was a sun-kissed brown, since she tans so easily. She had heard the whispers all around her growing up. Her mother was part Indian. What that meant was still a mystery to Rosie, since she didn't understand how a person could just be part something. So that must mean that she too was part Indian? Oh, what did that even mean? She was curious by nature and wanted more information, but didn't know the questions to ask. Her mom never talked about that part of their lives. It was like a curtain that had been shut, and no light could get through. Who was she? She had a strong pull in her heart to know more and wanted to know what was behind that curtain. It was early afternoon, and Rosie was skipping down the little dirt path that had been formed from years of car traffic by those who came to use the small aluminum fishing boats her family had for generations rented to make a bit of extra money. The lake had amazing crappie, sunnies, and huge northern pike. Rosie knew these woods and bogs well. She had grown up here and walked every animal trail, explored the bogs while chasing after frogs, and fished in the lake countless times. She could close her eyes in any spot and hear the countless animals that were her neighbors. The downy woodpecker, pecking little holes in diligent straight lines into the nearby maple tree, was one of her favorites. The chickadees, cardinals, and crows sang in a cacophony that any orchestra could not outdo. The wind blew its gentle breezes, and she could hear the leaves of the maple and silver birch tinkle together. There was also an amazing whisper through the needles of the pine trees that tickled that little spot on the back of your neck, and it made Rosie shiver and smile. The shy young girl left the path about halfway to the boat docking area and headed over to her special sitting rock. It was just a short walk off the dirt path. No one knew it was there. The trees, shrubs, and long grasses that grew up around this area each spring kept it well hidden and private. This space had become special to her over the years. She would find herself here in both good and bad times. Rosie could find refuge here when she sat upon the sitting rock. The girl felt a kind of safety envelop her, allowing her soul to find balance. The rock was where she could find herself, whether it be with big brown eyes overflowing with tears, a heart full of wonder or worry. It was a place Rosie could sit and think and often daydream. The girl sat upon the sitting rock and took in the beauty that surrounded her that afternoon. The brilliant sparkle from the lake was especially beautiful with the sun high in the sky, and at once there was peace in her heart. She didn't visit this spot every day, but today was special because she was feeling happy and excited, if not a bit tired too. Today she was on her sitting rock to reflect on last night's news. Her family was going on an adventure. Her mom's family was a mystery to her. They rarely visited, and when they did, it often was a surprise. Usually, an unrecognized, dilapidated vehicle would turn onto the long dirt driveway, slowly making its way to park in front of the weathered, white clapboard house that had been home to 3 generations of her dad's family. A few of mom relatives would pile out, the smell of tobacco or something else heavy in the air. Auntie said it was sweetgrass or sage. Rosie couldn't yet detect the difference since her family didn't burn these herbs, or medicines as Auntie called them. Rosie, along with her younger brother and sister, would look on in curiosity. Sometimes the men had their dark hair pulled back in ponytail or braids tied off the ends with leather instead of rubber bands. They each had a big smile and would approach to shake hands. Rosie couldn't wait to try and sit near enough to the group to hear the stories of their recent travels. It was like looking into a window into another world. Sometimes they would stay the weekend, but most often it was just a quick stop where Mom would feed them a meal or just some coffee and they would be off again. One such visit had just taken place. Mom had fried up some freshly caught sunnies, always a hit, and Rosie's uncle, Mom's older brother, had stopped by to visit and invited the family to go to a powwow. This was a big deal. It is my pleasure to introduce the Rosie Peters. Rosetta Peters is a Dakota poet, an author, a public speaker, and an activist. A procrastinator to the point of detriment, and a lover of the natural world. And we can welcome Rosie.
I just want to take a moment to thank the Phipps for hosting us tonight. I want to thank Heather again, and ArtReach, yes. All of you for being here, the Acreage, Franconia, the Sculpture Garden, Alex, and most importantly, all of you for making the journey, and Diane, Jean, Wowapi, Kaha, Oyate. It is just an honor to be a part of this journey. I was so excited that you were coming because you're like moms to me and sisters, your family. And it's, yeah. Oh, and my baby, she graduated early today. These are all short, brand new poems that I've been working on that are dedicated to the river. Wakiawi. Crazy Horse was a heoka, riding with the thunder beings. Hoka hey, he said, which means it's a good day to die. Or, come on, let's go. I hear my father's voice, and his father, and his father's father, and his father's father's father. My fathers are lightning, thunder. They are cloud and rain. This morning, The thunder beings came. I sat straight up in my bed. Hokahe, they said, speaking to my blood and bones. Wakiawi whispers ancient truths. I throw off the covers, get out of my bed, and go to her up river. Waziska, salvation, sacred as river, the way it cleanses. Stay here, silly human. Our standing relatives whisper. Sassy as the sparrow, singing a warning. We say sorry, but are we? We break and twist the whole world without ceremony. Big fish, stars dance downstream towards still water. Centuries of Dakota story speaks of Hogan Wankeki, legend of a warrior and a promise broken. Stillness settles, silted saliva, an endless thirst, greed of flesh, cursing the undercurrent of the liquid highway. This is my last piece. It's titled Shh. I don't yet know how to write us. Fear of losing has kept the pen from my hand. This love, both archaic and new, a creek spilling into her river. I am a rushing thing, a white-capped current, wild and polluted, and I don't want to contaminate you with the refuse I carry. Bruised Budweiser cans and Marlboro Red cigarette butts, looking a lot like PTSD and depression, litter the shorelines
of this body? And what of you? What sediments erode your agated heart? I'm dramatic. I did not come to muddy your lapping waves. Besides, none of that matters anyway. We are nature, creek, river, stone, and every bend has brought us here to this gentle confluence.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you to all the Oseti Sakowin writers who have traveled here today. Thank you for sharing your voices and your poems and your stories and your cultural knowledge. On our way out, all of the artists will be coming to the lobby and we can mill around and you can meet them. Don't forget to take your copy of Diane's essay, A Love Letter to the St. Croix, as you leave, and thank you so much. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah. Boy Scout now. I'm so glad that you all had the opportunity to hear the vulnerability, the passion, the strength, the courage that this group of writers brought tonight. And what a gift that is. And what vulnerability and strength it takes to open yourself up first to the page, but then to stand up on a stage and share it with an audience. And so I want to give another hand to when writers bring their hearts and minds on the page like this, it also takes an audience with hearts and minds ready to hear it. And so I want to thank all of you for coming and sharing in this moment. So let's have another round of applause, but this time for all of you. Idamaya.